Good evening. My name is Sylvia Bolivar, Deputy Commissioner of the Department of Planning and Community Development, as well as Executive Director of the Urban Renewal Agency. I'd like to thank those of you who are in attendance today and those of you who are watching or will watch online. It is April 17th and it is 6:09 p.m. This is the second public hearing of the 2023 Annual Action Plan. We're also going to cover the Consolidated Plan Substantial Amendment, as well as Section 108 Loan Guarantee Program. And with that, I'm going to do a quick overview. I have a PowerPoint presentation that has also been posted on the URA website. There is a section called Public Hearings, and you can read the PowerPoint there. So with that, I want to talk a little bit about what the CDBG funds are intended to do. We're one of the original grantees, and these funds are intended to serve the needs of low and moderate income persons who reside in the city. So those funds are always to address the pressing community needs of those who are low and moderate income. Now, there are three national objectives that we have to meet. One of those three, and they are direct benefit low and moderate income persons, aid in the prevention of or elimination of slum or blight, or meet an urgent need. Under the CDBG requirements, we are required to do a 5-year consolidated plan, and then that plan, the intent is to provide strategic policies and policy decisions on how these funds should be allocated over a 5-year period. And then every year there is an annual action plan that is done that documents what actions or priorities have been covered on an annual basis to implement the 5-year plan. Slide 6, Marlon. Under the 5-year plan, we did a pretty extensive community engagement process. We targeted those individuals who would benefit from these funds and made sure that we met with them. You know, we had meetings at the food pantries, at Leicester Towers. We met with those who benefit from public assistance. And the goal was to get input on how we should be allocating those funds. And so you see before you what those high priority needs are. You know, expand the supply of quality affordable housing. Under our proposal, we're looking to provide funds for rental assistance. We're seeing a great deal of housing instability. There are people who are still hurting from the pandemic. And so, and we have a very high number of evictions currently in the city. And so what we want to do is provide rental assistance to ensure that we create housing stability. So that's what we mean by this right now under priority number 1. The elimination of slum and blight, we've been addressing that by providing funds to hire code enforcement officers. So we've hired through the buildings department 2 code enforcement officers to help us improve our housing stock. Improve public facilities and infrastructure. That is a huge priority for us. And we have used these funds to purchase fire trucks, to do street repaving, to renovate playgrounds. And then priority number 4, support public services that provide much needed programs and services to the city's youth, seniors, low-income individuals and families, and special needs populations. So we have provided funding for the summer employment program that the Youth Bureau runs. We have provided funding for organizations that support the needs of seniors, elder abuse, for example, food pantries. And we've also provided funds to address special needs that like, for example, funding for the Rose Simon program. Prevent homelessness and providing housing and services to the homeless. We've done a great deal on that front. We received ESG's funding, and we've used that to provide rapid rehousing for those who are homeless and needed housing, domestic violence survivors, youth who are homeless. So we provided funding to address the needs of approximately 40 individuals during the past year. Support revitalization of neighborhoods through code enforcement. We spoke a little bit about that earlier on. Expand economic development opportunities. We had provided funding to, and we partnered with the Women's Enterprise Development Center to help individuals who are starting or growing their own business. So we have provided funding and helped about two dozen Mount Vernon residents. And then implement the grant programs effectively and efficiently while strengthening institutional structure. So we are able to shore performance outcomes, performance metrics. We are able to document how these funds are being utilized and who's benefiting from these programs, from these funds and the programs that we run. And so we're able to document that, and we've been doing those in our CAPER reports, which are annual reports to HUD. Those are also posted on the URA website. And the most recent one was completed and approved by HUD. Our next one will be due next November. Next slide. So we are, for fiscal year 23, we have been allocated $1.6 million from HUD under the CDBG program. Under the home program, over $600,000 for a total of $2.2 million. And then our annual action plan will cover how we're going to be, what we're proposing to do with these funds. Next slide. So under the CDBG program, we're proposing to use the 1.2 million to address public facilities and infrastructure. So we're looking at playgrounds, street repaving, the rehabilitation of the Dole Center, the Armory, the Stevens House, and fire stations. So obviously we can't use all 1.2 million to cover all of those needs, but what we're doing is we're indicating to HUD these are the areas we're looking to spend these funds, and a lot of it will depend too on RFPs and the bidding process, because we're going to need to make sure we go through a procurement process, right? In terms of how we prioritize, how we allocate these funds, as well as community input. So, and again, this is these 1.2 million will not be able to cover everything on this list, but I want to make sure we include it in the plan so that we don't have to do substantial amendments later. Next slide. Under the home program, we're proposing to do rental assistance using about $512,000 to provide rental assistance to residents of the city. We are in the process of releasing an RFP in the next 30 days to see what organization we're going to partner with to help do the day-to-day administration of the rental assistance program. And then we're required under HUD regulations to set aside 15% to work with a nonprofit development organization to do housing. And it's 102,000 that's been set aside. If we don't use it within two years, we can then use those for rental assistance. Next slide. And then we are also looking to reallocate home funds from prior years, approximately $2 million from years 15 through 20 to do rental assistance. We estimate we could probably serve 150 households with these funds over a 2-year period. And then finally, we're requesting a 108 loan, which is 5 times our annual allocation. So we would be receiving CDBG funds in advance to address some of the public infrastructure needs we have. We estimate that there is about a total of $26 million of projected costs for those public facilities that are eligible under the CDBG program. So the Armory, the Dole Center, the John Stevens House, and the fire stations. We project that it's approximately 26 million in terms of the scope of work to be done. It may be more than that at this point, but we are seeking public input from residents of the city on the Section 108 loan and what we should prioritize. Again, this is significant because we haven't done this since in 20 years. We haven't requested a 108 loan. It is 5 years of our CDBG funding that we would receive in advance. And every year, we would be using the entire CDBG allocation to pay back HUD this loan. And then there is a draft of the 108 loan on our website. I'm going to be refining it and finalizing the application. But again, I plan to have a third public hearing just on the 108 loan because this is very significant. And it's important for residents to understand then that our entire allocation will be tied up. And it would take us about 8 to 10 years to pay it back. And that means that those economic development projects or initiatives, public service programs we would need to look at other funding streams to cover those kinds of programs. And that is something that I'm also looking at as well. What other funding streams are available that we can identify in order to ensure that we continue providing funding for those programs and to nonprofit organizations in the city. But this, we have been looking at the 108 loan because we have immediate needs regarding the Dole Center, the Armory, the Stevens House, and as well as the fire station. So our challenge is if we do this, how we're going to identify other funding to ensure that we can braid other resources to complete the scope of work that has been identified under these projects. And then the next slide is the projected timeline. Again, this only covers 2 hearings considering the magnitude of the 108 loan and what that means. We will be holding a third public hearing in May. And then my goal is by June 1st to collect all of the public input included in our annual action plan that we submit to HUD. There was a survey done by a resident of the city and who had reached out to neighborhood associations across the city. And there were 96 responses in that survey. That survey will be included in what is submitted to HUD, as well as links to the public hearings so that HUD can review the public comments as well. So all of the public comments in person and in writing will be part of the annual action plan. And with that, I'm going to open it up for those who are here in attendance who would like to speak and provide comments.
Good evening. My name is Kathleen Walker Pickney, Commissioner of Recreation. I'm here to talk about the Armory, the Dole Center, and the Stevens House. It is very important to understand that these facilities are for our seniors. They are also for the Rose Simon program. These things are an essential part of the city of Mount Vernon and for the residents. We right now only have the Dole Center open, which is causing a problem because we have the Armory, we have the seniors from the Dole Center, we have the Rose Simon program, all contained into one building. We want to keep the quality of the seniors up to par by giving them quality programs in a quality facility. We need these programs because we need these buildings, facilities, because we are now putting them all into one place. The Armory also was a home for the Rose Simon program. That Rose Simon program, if you don't know, it's the programs for special needs. It is very important for these facilities to be up and running so that we can do the correct caring for the seniors and our youth. We have a different type of climate that's going on right now. And it's important for us to try to house people in places that is respectable, clean, decent, and just completely structurally founded so that we can put them in safe places. One of the other things is that the Dole Center is kind of our only place in case of emergency right now. In case of emergency at the Dole Center, if something was to happen, that is the warmest center, that is the cooling center, that is in case of a fire, any type of disaster, the Dole Center is the only place that we can put people. And that has a lot of issues going on that we need to address right now. These things need to be addressed right now. I am pleading, I am begging for the Armory to come back on board. It's important for that so that we can do these quality programs. The Stephen House is not even as much, but that will give another place for the youth to be able to go to, as well as generate money. But we cannot go forward in this type of form or fashion without these buildings being taken care of. So I am pleading and begging for the community to please listen. Remember that the seniors, the youth need somewhere to go, and we cannot function under one center that it is not fully up and operated due to lack of funds of different structural and other problems that need to be addressed there. So we are asking.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Good evening. Thank you for your time. I just want to follow up based on what some of the things that the commissioner said. My name is Sean Paul Wade. I'm the Director of Social and Community Services for the City of Mount Vernon, specifically over the Dole Center. So when I was looking at the 8 bullet points of what these funds should target, blight was number 2. And the Stevens House, I'm going to speak a bit more about that one in particular, because I understand the challenges that we have with having a finite amount of money and a lot of need, right? You can't do $26 million worth of work with $9 million. So you have to figure out what you can do. The Stevens House is one of the least expensive projects that has been suggested. However, it would give the city a second facility where we would be able to have the public facilities, which was number 3, the programming, which was bullet point number 4, and services that we want to provide for our community, and also revitalization. We're talking about a building that is historic, that is literally right across the street from the Dole Center, and would be able to be opened up not only for programming, but for events and everything else like that. It would give us another space where we could actually open up to our citizens, so that way they could come and have any of the experiences, experiential learning, resources, or anything else like that that might be beneficial to them. The reason why we're asking for this is because, as the commissioner has said, due to other issues, we have consolidated all of our recreational programs that are housed in buildings into the Dole Center. So while we had 2 beautiful senior programs, one at the Armory and one at the Dole Center, we now have 1 huge senior program. And while I do enjoy it because they keep me going, it can get crowded, it can get congested, especially on bingo days, right? So it's just about being able to make sure that we have enough space to be able to accommodate all of the programming that we want to bring to the citizens. And I think that if we can go ahead and get, the Armory back up and running, trust and believe when it comes to that, the Dole Center and anything else, the commissioner, myself, and the administration, we are seeking several different alternative avenues of grants and funding to be able to get things done. But if we have this one, and it might be hopefully low-hanging fruit, I think that it would be beneficial for the city as a whole to be able to restore the Stevens House to a space that we could open and operate for the citizens. Thank you.
And this would enable you to expand your services, right? To how many people you serve.
Absolutely. So between a lot of the different programs that we have, I know that on a typical weekly basis, we probably have about 500 interactions with seniors alone, just the number of times they come through the door. We have the Rose Simon program, which currently has 31 participants, and that program is growing. We have the boxing program that's held within the Dole Center as well. That program was in the 20s at the beginning of the beginning of September. That program has now also jumped into the 30s. So it's a beautiful thing because the Dole Center is being looked upon again as we came out of COVID to a place in people can come, but they're coming in droves and we need more space.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is John Donald. To add a little bit to what he said, also Meals on Wheels has been done at from the Dole Center. Okay. My problem is that we, from the Dole Center, we need a larger place. We crowded now and people started coming in day by day. We get new members that's coming in. And then I hear you talk about the Armory and the Dole Center. My suggestion would be fix the Dole Center first. We need chairs, we need tables, roof is leaking. And what else? We need transportation.
Yeah.
That's another important thing, is transportation. So I feel if we could fix the Dole Center first, then you could concentrate on Armory. But in the meantime, we need to fix up the Dole Center where we have a place to stay. It rains in the Dole Center. Okay, I think that's.
Okay, I'm part of the Dole Center. This is my husband. I'm Aldora Dunham. To add to something, we have a lot of seniors that don't like to be alone. We have a lot of seniors that this is their only meal they get. So that's why it's important that we fix up, renovate, get a place for each. And if we can go back to the Armory, fine. So we need help. We're begging for help. We're asking for help. If anybody have any loose change around and want to help us out, we appreciate it. And well, he covered everything. Condition of the building, the Armory needs restoring, the transportation. Sometimes we're down to one bus. And so we need transportation desperately. Yes, yes. And sometimes they don't get home till like 6 o'clock at night.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
So part of what, when we're looking how we're going to prioritize funds, we're looking at the scope of work. We're looking at impact, significant impact in the community. We're looking at what can be completed with the funds that we currently have, right? And we're looking at how we address the needs of our seniors, how we address the needs of youth who can then be served with these funds. And as was stated earlier, there is a great deal of need for connection, for community involvement, for educational opportunities for our youth. And as we're looking at addressing some of the systemic challenges in our city, having these recreation centers, community centers, the Armory open would help address some of our challenges that we face as a city, right? When we talk about violence and we talk about ensuring that our youth are kept busy and learning and being around other people who can mentor and train them, right? And we look at the needs of our seniors and Meals on Wheels and some of the food distribution drives that we do as a city. We're probably one of the busiest jurisdictions in the entire county when it comes to food distribution. And the recreation department does an incredible amount and extraordinary work around those around that, around food security. So it is not easy to make these decisions when we have very scarce federal resources. But we are having these hearings, we're putting up the documents, and as we seek input from residents, we also need to understand what those needs are, what those challenges are, and how we're trying to tackle them as a city while also creating transparency, right? And everything we do with these, under these programs, everything that the Urban Renewal Agency does, we make sure we over communicate. We make sure we hold hearings. We make sure that we provide those reports and the data, and we seek input. And for those of you who are watching, know that we're also looking at other funding opportunities, bringing some of these resources. We are reaching out to the congressional delegation because there may be other funding opportunities that we can use as well to ensure that we address all of the scope of work that's being proposed right now. We may not be able to, even with the braiding of resources, complete everything, but we can make a huge dent, right? Which is what we're looking to do. And for us, it's been really there are some really tough choices, but this is where we think we can make the most significant impact, right? Being able to restore these buildings to provide city services to those who need them the most. So I thank those of you who are here. I thank those of you who will watch this, since we are recording it and posting it. You can provide written comments to me via email, sbolivar@cmbny.com, or you can mail those comments, or you can attend the next public hearing. It will be the third and final public hearing. A date has not been scheduled yet. My goal is to release the date in the next 2 weeks, because I'm finalizing the 108 application. We'll be seeking input from HUD before we formally submit it, and give everyone an opportunity to provide comments. And with that, I thank you, and this meeting is adjourned.